As Michael and I talked about our Lenten series and trying to overlay the idea of Lent as a journey on the story of the Exodus, such a foundational story in the Old Testament on through the New Testament, the Passover, the unleavened bread, manna, the prophets, all of it. The beginning, the question where to start was obvious, but it wasn't easy. It wasn't comfortable. It's troubling. The escape, the Exodus, this is a hard story. God is either, depending on how you read it, a warrior on the people's behalf or an executioner punishing the Egyptians, or both. This story is told through the lens of death. In the background, the death of the Israelite children. In the foreground, the death of the firstborn Egyptians, God's retaliation. And as much as anything else, this is a war story, a divine clash between God and the Pharaoh. But not just the Pharaoh. The text said, you heard it read, not a household in Egypt was spared. They were all guilty. They were all punished. They were all held accountable. The future of God's people is literally at stake, and God acts on their behalf dramatically, devastatingly, to set them free. God wins, not so much wins as simply takes their freedom. It's not really a contest. The Pharaoh is unimaginably outmatched. And so the people, this ragtag mess, begin their journey. They are set free and they move out in hurry and in hope to seek a better place. A home, a promised land way out in the distance. And with this story in front of us, we begin our journey, this thing we call Lent that leads us to Easter. It's more spiritual than physical. Our journeys are certainly less dramatic, but I think the imagery helps us. The themes of freedom, of escape, of struggle, and even death. Last week on Ash Wednesday, those who participated heard the traditional liturgy, typically throughout history, as the ashen cross is put on the forehead, the words, "You are dust, and to the dust you return," are spoken over them. Just days later, in this very place, we had a funeral. And we include those words, dust to dust, ashes to ashes. And in Lent, those words aren't meant to be morbid. They're meant to be sobering. A reminder to us that we have limited days in this life that's given to us. Use them well. Pay attention. Seek what truly matters. Don't be distracted with lesser things. A reminder also, metaphorically at least, that in order to move forward, some things have to be left behind. Some things have to be put to death. Paul writes to the Colossians and says, put to death whatever is sinful in you. Fear, sin, pride, idolatry, lust. They don't belong on this journey. They hinder us. They do not help us. They slow us down. They mislead us. They make us lost. Spiritually speaking, if we are to make it to Easter, the promised land of freedom and hope, we have to begin considering and confronting what we don't take. What anchors us? What holds us back? What stands in our way? And all of us have something. The truth of our faith is that we all carry something in us that does not help our faith. And Lent asks us to consider what it might be. Lent asks us to confront what it might mean to let go of it. Are we judgmental? Do we gossip? Are we anxious? Are we angry? Do we have some behavior that we wrestle with? Lent asks us not only to admit it, but to think about abandoning it, leaving it behind, stepping out instead in faith and truth. And for the Israelite, those first steps were easy because they thought the whole journey would be easy. We know better. If we have ever attempted seriously to follow Christ, we know better. We know that the path to Easter is difficult, and it is hard to walk it well. It is hard to face hard truth. It is hard to confess, let alone to change. And so today, on this first Sunday of Lent, let us start with these small, difficult steps of wrestling with what we need to leave behind. What does not help us? What hinders us? What do we trust too much? And as we do, remember that just as the Israelites in the Exodus, we go not on our strength. The path to Easter isn't about how strong we can be. It isn't about, am I going to just deny the things that I don't think? It is more than that. It is a reliance on God. It is God who works for us and in us, and it is God who gives us the strength to follow this difficult path well. Because it is God who calls us forward to the place that He has prepared for us to go. Today we look far ahead in hope to that promised place where we're no longer slaves to our brokenness and our sin, where we have been set free by the grace of the one who died that we might live, whose very death opened the path to a new place. Today, we seek to follow the path that leads us there. And more importantly, to follow the one who calls us to go with Him. Amen.